If you haven't heard about Anchor yet, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free and there's no charge. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more music apps.
You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you'll ever need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started on your podcast today.
Hey Luke, how's it going?
Yo, what's up?
Pretty good, man. How about you guys?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Just want to personally thank you for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I just wanted to say I really like the Steve Nash jersey. I'm from Phoenix, so
Yeah, I like Steve Nash too. I like him a lot. He's my guy.
Oh yeah.
All right, Luke. So, obviously, if you don't know, we are three high school kids. We all attend the same high school. I'm a senior, getting ready to go to college, and I'm actually going to be playing baseball in college at Mount Aloysius College.
Nice. Where's that at?
It's out towards Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
It's a really, really, really nice campus. It's a D3 school, but I just kind of fell in love with it when I was out there. Fell in love with their facilities and everything. So
I feel that. I mean, I went to a tiny school too, so
yeah. I mean,
just loved it.
the high school that we go to, I think there's only 520 some kids in our school, and so.
Mhm.
Coming from a small high school, I was kind of looking for a smaller kind of college atmosphere.
Yeah.
I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, good for you, man. That's awesome. That's really
Yeah, I
cool.
appreciate that. But anyways, the other two, Jason and Jacob, those guys are both juniors in high school, so they still have another year left. They both play football.
Yep.
This is a sports podcast, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, Peyton's the baseball guy out of us.
I'm a baseball guy, but yeah.
I'm kind of everything: football, baseball, basketball.
Yeah, I mean that's how you got to be. Right? Play everything as long as you can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Jason, you were able to set this up with Luke. So I'm just
Yeah.
going to kind of let you get into the story about how you met Luke.
Yeah, I think it was 2019. A bunch of my friends and I, we were at the Senators game, and I remember Luke at the Senators field. If you don't know, the opposing team's bullpen is actually it's kind of in the stadium where fans can go up right next to it and kind of talk to the guys. And we found Luke on I don't know what it was, maybe Twitter or Instagram. So we started DMing him about how we wanted to see him as a Philly soon, and we were talking about him how he had a good game. And then the past week, I started thinking about how we hit him up earlier in the past 2 years. I think it was 2 years ago. But they're like, let's have him on the podcast. So that's kind of how it translated to having him on. And it all worked out.
I actually remember that pretty vividly. That was a fun one. The stadiums like that where you can actually interact with the fans a good bit. That's all worth it. It's really fun that way. Good or bad. I mean, you ask almost any player, we appreciate the good as much as we appreciate the people that are making fun of us. Because if you're funny, we respect it.
Yeah, I actually I played baseball in high school, obviously, and we actually had a game at the Senators field. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and I loved playing there. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool stadium.
Yeah, for sure. So, Luke, we have a couple questions for you. We put together, all three of us put together a couple lists of questions. So Jason, if you wouldn't mind reading off the questions for Luke, and then
Yeah. So first we want to start off at what age did you actually start playing baseball, and when did you fall in love with the game?
So, I mean, I've played my whole life. I played starting whenever you start T-ball, what, at 4, 5, something. My dad actually played for the Angels in the major leagues in the 90s. So I kind of grew up with baseball, but I would say I would say probably around middle school was when I was like, man, I love this. I want to see if I could do it forever kind of thing. But I mean, like I was saying a little bit earlier about like playing every sport, like I tried to play everything as long as I could, but I always knew like I'm loving baseball a little bit more than the rest of them.
Yeah, definitely. Along with your dad playing in the MLB, we were doing some research and we kind of wanted a little more about how your father and his story behind him finding his birth father and you becoming the third generation talent to become a pitcher in the MLB.
Yeah, I mean, that one, it's a crazy story. There's a couple really good articles out there about it. But my dad was adopted, grew up in small town Virginia, made his own way, played at Radford University, a small school in Virginia, got drafted out of there. He was really good, made it up to the big leagues quickly. And then when he was up there, he was told that his adopted parents told him he was adopted. And he kind of got pretty interested in seeing like where he came from and things like that. And it wasn't anything more than just a little bit of a curiosity. And he went on this big hunt to find who his biological parents were, and went to the hospital that he was born at and found the documents, and everything was redacted and taken out except for occupations. And father's occupation, it said Major League Baseball player. So he said that was a really surreal moment. And then through a little more sleuthing and digging, he eventually found him and gave him a call one day, and the rest is history. And he's been part of my life because that was before I was born. So he's been a part of my life my whole life.
One more question from me, and then I'll let these guys take a few swings. I want to know what led to your commitment to Wofford College. Like, what did you really like about the school?
So I wasn't very heavily recruited out of high school. I was a lot smaller. I didn't pitch until my junior year of high school. I was catcher, infielder, a little bit of everything. Kind of realized late that I threw kind of hard. So they were like, hey, maybe we should try pitching. I mean, your family were pitchers. Why aren't you? So I started working on it a little bit more. And so this was like senior year of high school, and I had really no looks and started working really hard at pretty much just pitching at that point, and made a good velocity jump and threw in this tournament in Florida, in Jupiter, Florida, my fall of my senior year. And a few teams called me, a few schools. Most of them were, it was late in the recruiting process. So they were all like, look, we really like you. We wish you could come here, but we only have a walk-on spot for you. We can't give you any money, which, as you guys are probably finding out pretty soon, college is really expensive. So, but the pitching coach, Jason Burke from Wofford, he's now the head coach at Lander University in South Carolina. He called me one day and he was like, hey, Luke, this is Jason Burke from Wofford. I'm sure you've never heard of us, but we would love to get you out here on a visit. And I promise you, once you see the campus, you'll fall in love. And I was like, you know what? Might as well try, right? So went out there on my official visit, and Peyton, like you were saying, I fell in love with the campus. I had never been in that area before because I grew up in Arizona. And honestly, one of my favorite things was how welcoming the team was to a high school kid on a recruiting visit. Like, they all super nice, really welcoming, and just felt included. And all those things combined, they gave me a scholarship offer too. And it was like, it seems like everything's kind of pointing here. And it's one of the better decisions I've ever made in my life.
Awesome.
That is awesome. That's a great story.
All right, Jacob.
All right. So you said you grew up in Arizona. Did you grow up a Diamondbacks fan, or did you have like a sort of out-of-state team that you were a fan of?
So I grew up, yes and no. I grew up liking the Diamondbacks because they were the local team. So I was always going to those games and like knew the players because they were on TV all the time. But since my dad played for the Angels, I always would root for them too. So it's kind of like I had an AL and an NL team that I was rooting for. So both.
All right, Peyton, your turn.
I mean, I don't know if you can see behind me, Luke, but I'm a huge Philly sports guy.
Yeah.
If you are ever interested in listening to one of the podcasts, you'll hear a lot of
bias.
Yeah, a lot of bias from me on my end for Philly sports. But I just kind of want to know like your journey through the Phillies organization and, you know, where you guys are at right now.
So I was drafted by them in 2015. Went from pretty much straight from college to Williamsport to play short season there. Had a ton of fun there. That was great. And then the next year went to Lakewood for low A, which is now high A. They just switched everything up. Spent a half season there. Was an all-star that year, my only all-star game. And then moved up after that to Clearwater, which was high A, is now low A. Spent the second half of that year there as a starter. And then in the off season, they told me they wanted to be a reliever, which I had never been a reliever before. I'd always started. So that was a interesting little change for me. But at first I was a little bit thinking of it as a demotion, but came to realize that that wasn't necessarily true. It was more of they saw what I couldn't see in terms of my stuff, and the way that I pitch suits the bullpen a little bit better.
Yeah.
So from there, I had a good year in 17 in Clearwater again. 18 went to Reading, and then had a pretty decent year there too. Following that season, I went to the Arizona Fall League, which was really cool. I mean, I don't think they do it anymore, but we wore like our major league jerseys. So we got our own Phillies jerseys, pants, whole thing. Like, felt really cool to be in major league uniform and play in it really for the first time. Through all there, then went back, and one of those things where in professional baseball, it's everybody's competing for the same things. And they went ahead, the Phillies signed a bunch of veteran relievers. So it kind of pushed all of us back a little bit, and ended up going back to Reading, even though I had thrown well before, which, I mean, that stuff happens. It's not a big deal. But after about a month, I moved up to Lehigh, and then pitched for 2 or 3 months there, and then actually ended up hurting my shoulder pretty bad. No surgery, but I missed the rest of the year, and then was just about healthy for 2020. And then obviously COVID hit, so we didn't play. Then that brings us to this year, and went into spring training, and still kind of like, I wasn't hurting anymore from the injury, but I definitely wasn't 100% back to my full self. And I didn't have a very good spring training this year. And at the end of it, went into the office with the heads of our minor leagues and stuff like that. And we had a really good conversation about like what I thought I needed physically and mentally. And we all kind of decided that it was best that I get my release and try and take the next month or two to really work on getting back to what I was before the injury, so that hopefully I can continue to play professional baseball afterwards. And they were really nice about it. And they actually told me that whenever I feel like I'm ready to give them a call, and they would be willing to sign me back. So hopefully I can get back to what I was before and get back rolling.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, Luke. Just a few comments. You could definitely help the Phillies bullpen right now. I don't know if you've been watching as of late, but Jason and I are huge Phillies fans, and I think every single day we're always complaining about how the bullpen is so bad and blowing games and stuff. But that's besides the point. I appreciate
no
you.
comment on.
But I have another question for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know if you've been following the Phillies as of late, but I've recently realized that they've been calling up a few minor leaguers, Nick
Mhm.
Maton included. So I didn't know if you had played with any of those guys at one point in time, or you know.
I think Maton is probably the only one I haven't played with, and that's just because when I got hurt, he got moved up, so it was like we had just missed each other.
Yeah.
But Jojo Romero and I were teammates for years, good friends. Connor Brogdon and I used to be roommates. Another awesome guy. Trying to think, Mickey Moniak and I played on the same team. Bohm, all those guys. Like they're doing a really good job of promoting good young talent. And I mean, we've had some good minor league teams, and they're kind of taking note of that and trusting the young guys to kind of make an impact. And a lot of them are doing really well.
Yeah, I just like I said, I've just been realizing that in the last 2 or 3 weeks, there's been a lot of call-ups, and I especially with, I don't know if you've been paying attention, like the injury list or whatever, but Didi Gregorius and Gene Segura, two veterans on the team, they've been hurt. So I've noticed that there's been a couple call-ups. So yeah, Joe Romero is the guy that slams the energy drinks.
Has he always done that?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. Has he always done that when he was with you?
No, I actually had never seen him do it before until one day on Twitter I saw it and I texted him. I was like, "You're an idiot,
man." Jason or Jacob, do you guys have any more questions for Luke?
Yeah, I wanted to add. You were talking about your shoulder injury. I was kind of interested how much that affected you, and it kind of seemed like that was in the beginning or sort of near when COVID hit. How much that affected you?
Yeah, I wish it didn't affect me as much as it did, but kind of we thought it was one thing and rehabbed a good bit for that, and it turns out that wasn't exactly what was going on. So it wasn't like we wasted all that time, so it was still good recovery and things like that. But once we kind of figured out the root of the problem, we could start working on it again. And then at that point, it had been already missed half a season the year before, and then missed 2020. So I hadn't been able to throw for like a year and a half. So it was just kind of like what I had been doing for years and years and years, and building up that arm strength and building that, like basically being able to repeat things over and over again. Like I kind of lost that a little bit. So it was like, I actually played in Australia this past winter, which was awesome. And it was a good chance for me to get back out there and get my feet wet in real games again and play. And I mean, even then I wasn't quite myself in terms of velocity and just the stuff coming out of my hand and being able to repeat quality strikes and things like that. But so that was like the first thing where I was like, maybe I need some time to really work and get back to where I was. And then when I went to spring training, it was a little bit more the same. So yeah, I mean, it kind of all dates back to the shoulder injury, but I mean, I'm definitely not injured anymore. It's just kind of rebuilding what I had built up over those years.
Yeah, gotcha. Going along with the playing in Australia, I kind of want to hear about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. Beautiful country. There was no COVID there. So Australia did a really good job of like taking COVID completely out of the picture. Because it is an island and it's so far away from everything, they shut everything down, and you had to get like a visa and a permit to even get into the country at all. And then once we got there, we had to do 14 days in a hotel room of quarantine, like just us, hotel room for 14 days, which was pretty relaxing for about 7 of them. And then after that, I was like, man, I need to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But the season was great. My team ended up winning the championship, which was awesome. Pretty cool to live in another country and see another culture for an extended period of time and actually be fully immersed in it. And I think that's one of my favorite things about getting to play there. And I mean, I like traveling, so it was really awesome for me.
Yeah. All right, Jacob.
Expanding on that a little bit. Do they play baseball like any different in Australia? Like, are there different like regional styles for it? Because I know with the NBA, there's like a distinct European style of basketball. So is there like any difference in the way they play in Australia or any other place in the globe?
I would say Australia, because that league was owned by Major League Baseball for a really long time. So they kind of tried to emulate the way that we play in America. It's just not as big as the other sports there. Kind of like you picture here, like the NFL is probably the most popular league in America. That's like fans, people that watch it, things like that. Over there, they have their own football league, which is played differently. Then they all love cricket, and then there's kind of a big drop off between those sports and then baseball. So there's not as many fans with it, not as many people play. But there's still a lot of really talented guys there, and they kind of try and emulate the way that major leaguers play here in America because they want to be major leaguers in America. So they like kind of model their game after the best players over here. I will say though, in terms of just the rest of the world, I know a lot of the Asian countries, Japan specifically, do a very, very good job of more of like the small ball approach to baseball. Like they move runners, they throw a lot of strikes, they basically play the game their own way, and they do it pretty much perfectly, which is why the Japanese teams in all the World Baseball Classics and things like that are so successful. It's because they are probably the most prepared players in the world at doing exactly what they do. So they have their own kind of play style, but I would say outside of the Asian countries, everybody else kind of plays the same.
Yeah. With moving around between minor league teams, how has that kind of affected you and your family?
That's definitely an interesting part of it, because one of the things you have to get used to really quickly is you really don't have any say in where you're going to be. You just know you're going to be gone. So
right.
you get used to the part of being away from your family for a long time. It's tough, but I mean, it's all part of playing baseball and being gone for that long. It's the real only time that it really gets any trouble is when you move levels up or down, when there's like a trip planned and things like that. So like one of them, a couple that come to mind immediately are when I moved from Lakewood to Clearwater the first time. I was going to play in Greenville, South Carolina the next day, which is like 30 minutes from where I went to college. So like a bunch of my college friends were coming. Everybody was super excited. I was going to go hang out and see people I hadn't seen in a really long time. And then the day before, they were like, hey, you're going to Florida. So that all changed. But I mean, friends, family, they all get it. They know the life, and they know that you could be anywhere at any time. Like you don't really get any warning before any of these moves. So you just got to be ready and agile and on your feet all the time.
Yeah. It's a business almost.
Yeah. I mean, it is.
All right, Jacob, anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, so you living in Arizona, do they have In-N-Out Burger in Arizona?
Yes, they do.
How good is it? Because we're East Coast guys, you know.
I know. I mean, I've been East Coast, West Coast a lot, so like I've tried a bit of everything at this point. I would say In-N-Out is a very, very good burger. I would compare it to like Five Guys, kind of like Five Guys with less topping options and things like that.
Okay.
But it's also cheaper. So I would say a little bit more bang for your buck. But if you like to add all sorts of toppings on it, then you're probably still going to prefer Five Guys. But you can't go wrong either way.
That's kind of interesting to me. I don't know about you guys, but In-N-Out, I always pictured as being, kind of West Coast, kind of more expensive.
Yeah, that's
I mean, Five Guys here
Red
is
Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Luke,
burger,
I just
you can get a
go ahead.
burger or Five Guys burger can run you up to like what $10-12 if you put enough stuff on it. At In-N-Out, you're looking $5 to $7. So
That's crazy. That's crazy.
yeah, I mean, you guys got to get out there and go.
That's true. We should.
Yeah,
We should
we'll make a trip soon.
Go see the Suns play. They're hot right now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, they
true.
are.
Are you a Suns fan?
I am, but I mean, basketball is probably my third or fourth sport. But I mean, I root for the Suns. I just
Cardinals fan?
Yeah, you're
big
probably.
yeah.
Are you happy with their draft?
It was kind of boring, but
Oh, we were loving that.
Yeah, we we're big football guys. I think Jacob and I probably sat and watched every single round. So
yeah. What do you guys think of the Eagles picks then?
I mean, I'll let Jacob speak for himself or speak for him. I'll give my spiel.
I like most of them. I like most of the Eagles picks. I'm not an Eagles guy, as you can see by the Dolphins logo. But
Dolphins did well, though. I'll give you that.
I thought we did pretty well, yeah.
Yeah.
There were some things I didn't like, but that's just nitpicking.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way about the Eagles. I mean, I loved their first-round pick. I think they got some really great value in some guys later in the draft. So I think overall, I'd probably give them like a B grade, but I don't know. I'm pretty biased. So
yeah. One of my best friends with the Phillies, Jeff Singer, he'll be in Lehigh Valley this year. He is from Philly, like grew up in Philly, huge Philly sports fan. So we were joking around with him about how like, oh, what are the Eagles going to do to blow it this year and all that.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I was waiting for it. I was waiting.
Heard the same joke.
They didn't do it this year.
Yeah, that's true. We'll see. I guess Howie Roseman, the Eagles GM, he'll get to keep his job for another year. But we'll see. Luke, I just had one more question before we wrap things up here. Who was your, like, if you could go back and remember who you kind of mimic your game after, who would you say?
That's an interesting question. I would say a lot of things. I don't think there's been one person that I would say I emulated my game off of. I like to pick things up off of a lot of people, and whether that's coaches or other players or anything like that, where it's like, here's a pitch that this guy throws and look up how he throws it and things like that. And one in particular, when I was in college, I watched a video of Adam Wainwright throwing curveballs because I was trying to figure out how to throw a curveball, and found this video. It was like a 30-second video of him talking about his mental cue when he throws a curveball. And I was like, well, I mean, he's pretty good at it. Why don't I just try that? And that was the one that clicked for me. And I think it's different for everybody. Like, you can't tell the same thing to everybody and expect them to all be the same. So one day, if I ever see Adam Wainwright in person, I'm going to thank him for that. But I would say definitely bits and pieces of everybody that I've ever played with or against and things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, I'm a catcher, so I personally like to mimic a lot of my game after JT Realmuto.
I mean, he's about as good as it gets. So.
Yeah, probably the best catcher in baseball, along with my favorite. So why not?
Yeah.
But Luke, I just want to thank you on behalf
Absolutely.
of both. Thank you for joining us, and we'll stay in touch for you for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. Best of luck with everything.
Yeah, thanks, Luke.
Find a way to get on my Marlins.
Yeah. I'll see what I can do. I am a free agent right now.
All right.
All right. Thanks.